Uh, all right, all right. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Travis with the Good Life Property Group, and I hope you are making it a great day. So this is a pretty exciting day for me. I've been wanting to do this here for a couple months now, and I've been thinking about how and when was the best way to present it for you. And I decided that this week was going to be a good time to do it. So what we're going to be talking about today is the Toyota Way. Now, for the better part of the last 100 years, Toyota has really established this reputation of having certain quality controls and certain practices. They call it the Toyota Way, the Toyota production system. It's referred to in many different worlds. And it's really the gold standard when it comes to manufacturing best practices. So, Toyota teaches this across the world. They bring in companies into their manufacturing facilities and they show them exactly how it works. But I want to break this down for you today a little bit because I actually honestly believe that this could potentially help you in almost any business that you're in. And if you're not familiar with manufacturing, I think especially it's helpful for you to consider some of this stuff. And so I put together a presentation, and this is going to be probably a part one of multiple series that we're going to do. We're going to really take a deep dive on this, but I want to kind of lay the initial groundwork for this and kind of start getting your mind thinking about it at least, because I think that this is something that everybody should know. It should be taught in schools and everything else. So, without further ado, I am going to go ahead and share this screen here with you guys. And so the Toyota Way, the Toyota production system, however you'd like to call it, this all starts out with Keiichi Toyota. And he is literally the founder of the company, and he started the company and he had a heart of service. So the beginning of the company was very much not has nothing to do with making cars. And I think this is probably the first thing that's very surprising is that he just wanted to make people's lives better. Okay. So the beginning of this whole company and what you see today was for a basically it's a loom. And at the time, there was a let-off mechanism and it required two hands. Now, he created the Toyota Power Loom in 1906, which made the process more efficient and it also increased the fabric quality. So, when his other goal was basically the invention of an automatic loom, and so it was something that would basically be more efficient than this hand done process. And so I'm going to just go on to the next thing here. This is something that I think is really, really important to just start out with the Toyota precepts. Now, this is aspirational because I can tell you based on firsthand experience that this is definitely not practiced the way that it's said here. But always be contributing to your duties and contributing to the company and the overall good. Be studious and creative, striving to stay ahead of the times. Be practical and avoid frivolous. Strive, this is the one that really got me. Strive to build a home-like atmosphere at work that's warm and friendly. It is not warm and friendly. I can tell you that it is not warm and friendly at all. And always have respect for spiritual matters and remember to be grateful at all times. And so this really goes into respecting everybody and treating everybody in a certain way. And I think that these are really important. During the time that I was there, very much encouraged my team to try to practice this, but unfortunately, it just doesn't always work in practice the way that it does in theory. So, what is the Toyota production system? What does this mean? Okay. So, it really boils down to a couple core concepts, but it is basically a lean system. So, we're going to eliminate all the muda or the waste out of the system. And it's a consistent system that always is evolving and changing. And over time, it's going to take inputs from various people and say, hey, look, we can improve this process. And then the other thing about it is that's really important is that we mentor others in the system. So once you understand how this works, it's really your goal to teach other people about it as well. And if I go on to this really breaks down the entire Toyota production system in a very easy to understand graphic. So we're just going to start with this, the just in time. We want the highest quality, lowest cost, they definitely focus on lowest cost. I'll tell you right now. Shortest lead time. Okay. So just in time. Think about your business cards, right? When you order business cards, you probably need 500 business cards. So I order business cards. Then we talk about signs. You order signs. You start out with one sign in real estate. So you got to operate with the minimum number of resources to deliver services. So if you're just starting out in a business, you don't need a lot of fancy stuff. You don't need a fancy office. You don't need all the custom branded folders. You can go to Walmart. You can get free pens from the title company, and it's just where it's needed when it's needed. So, what are the core basic things, the bare minimums that you can use to run your business? We're in an age of technology, so thankfully, technology allows us to do a lot of the stuff that we can possibly do with just a computer. So, even an open house sign in form, you really don't need an open house sign in form if you have an iPad. And so, just thinking about this in its most basic terms, the minimum amount of possible input that you can put in, and then on the back side of that, the maximum amount of output that you can get. And so this looks like how many leads can you get and how many people can you convert into actually selling a house in our example of talking about real estate. And then Jidoka. Jidoka means that we're going to look for things that are outside of the normal process. Now, what happens when there's an abnormality? We at Toyota we call it the andon. We pull the andon. It's basically stopping the line, okay, so that we can get our humans and the machines back in order with each other. Now, we're talking a lot about AI right now, and AI and technology is drastically outpacing what humans can possibly do. And so we're going to probably have some judoka here very soon when it comes to the world of modern technology because it's rapidly going to outpace us. At the very bottom of this, there's a couple things really important. Standardized work. At Toyota, you will hear everybody talk about standardized work. Nobody ever wants to write it and nobody ever wants to follow it. So one might question yourself, what's the point of writing a process that you're not going to follow? Well, good question, Travis. The point of it is that you can show somebody else the process and in theory they should be able to go and execute on it. So if you're not standardizing and you're not developing a process for something, we're wasting a lot of time. And when you start writing these processes and you actually do it correctly and you follow the process, you will quickly understand how it actually works and it makes sense a lot more. And then you're going to Kaizen, which means constantly changing, right? We're going to always be changing the process along the way to make it better. Now, where does this come from? Taichi Ono, okay? And in the Toyota way, they call him Ono all the time. What it boils down to is you really need to see it yourself, watch somebody do it, then you need to do it yourself, and then in the process of doing it yourself, you're going to improve. So, we're going to talk about real estate because that's what we're talking about. And it's great that you watch a lot of YouTube videos, but at some point you need to go do it. Now, when you're doing it, you need to have somebody else watching you do it so that they can observe and critique you and offer you some things. Now, what is required for that? A culture of constant, continuous quality improvement. Now, this is really, really hard. And I think that even Toyota would admit that if you lose the culture, if people are afraid to speak up, if they're concerned about losing their job, for example, they're not going to speak up. But if the culture protects people and it makes sure that they can speak up and it's not going to be a problem, it allows us to constantly be improving and changing everything. Now, this isn't ideal, okay? Again, it's very difficult to actually implement this stuff and actually do it the right way. But when you do it right, you can actually do it almost anywhere. So, we have 14 different boxes here, and I encourage you to take a screenshot of this. We're going to kind of talk about each one of these individually and why they're important. So, the very first thing about Toyota is it's very much a long-term philosophy. With everything that they do in the business, they're thinking about decades, 20 years, 30 years down the road. Nothing is done with a short-term thought. It's always about what does this look like 10 years down the road. Now, some of you probably don't even know if you're going to be in the business 10 years from now. Some people might be out of the business next year, but I think you should plan a 10-year plan. I have a 20-year plan. I know exactly where I'm going to go. I know exactly what I'm going to do. As soon as the money comes in my account, I know exactly where it's going to go. So we're going to move to number two, which is a continuous flow. When you have a plan, it's very easy to track the plan and see things moving through the plan. And if there's a blockage in the flow, you got to eliminate the blockage in the flow. And now, the next precept is use pull. Okay. So if you don't need something and it's readily available to you, um, let's just say signs. Okay. If I can have a guy print my signs within a day, I don't need to have 100 signs. I need the bare minimum of number of signs. And then if I think I'm going to need some more, I will have them pull me some signs. A junka, which is stabilizing and constantly keeping that process moving. Number five, build the right culture, and culture is everything. I will say this all the time. You will constantly hear me say this is the culture. Now, when the culture is wrong, people leave. And I'm case in point of this is that it's very, very difficult to maintain the correct culture, especially when you have a team, because managing a team is a specialized skill. And most people have no idea how to run a team. And I can completely tell you that I was completely clueless on how that worked. And then when I got to Toyota and I realized this team's a mess, yeah, it's not going to work for me. And so just moving on to that is standardizing the work. If not everybody on the team can do the work, we have a problem. If people on the team aren't being transparent or if they're not willing to help train other people, we have a serious problem, okay? And almost everything that you do can be standardized. At Toyota, they made some of the most complex automotive assemblies on the face of the planet. Guess what? They standardized that work. Now, how does that help us in the workplace? Well, once we have standardized work, then we can have somebody observe the work. So, using visual controls, if you have somebody that can see you and in real time correct what's happening, it's very, very useful for you because if you get criticized after the fact when you're not doing it, it's a lot different. When somebody's standing there right now and they see you doing it and they can correct you right then, very helpful. Number eight, this is something I am absolutely on board with is using only tested technology. Now, we can all agree that technology is awesome until it's not awesome anymore. And if you're going to be in a manufacturing facility and you're going to be making some of these products that they make, it's very important to understand that at some point it's going to be out in the world and people are going to be using it and their lives may literally be on the line here. So we don't like to innovate unless we know that that innovation is actually going to work and it's been tested in real estate. There's always a new shiny object, but AI is never going to replace a human. It's not going to happen. Um, so grow leaders who live the philosophy. This is another one that's very, very difficult. I mean, if you're not even teaching the people that work there the philosophy, it's going to be very difficult to grow leaders. And then if the culture is not right, leaders are going to be afraid to lead. Um, and you need to have this culture that where people give and receive feedback and it's not a big deal. Developing people and teams, this is another big one is that if you're not constantly working on continuous quality improvement of the people that you work on, only highly developed people are ever going to actually be willing to put in the work and do the things. And if your highly developed people always leave because of the culture, that's going to be a huge problem. Respect outside forces, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? There's lots of things that could possibly come in and affect our business that are completely outside of our control. So you should know and understand those. Observe and reflect. And now I'm going to take a little sip of my coffee here so that you can observe and reflect on things. We have to diagnose before we prescribe. And so if we see something and then we think about that thing and then we say, well, maybe we could do that a little bit differently. How do those decisions get made? Slowly. We don't do anything quickly here. Everything moves like a snail. Okay? Until we decide, then we move fast. Once we've made the decision, we fire the bullet. And then always constantly looking back and reflecting. Now, I made a major change in my real estate world, partly because of some of these things. Is I took 4 months to make a decision to change. And as soon as I changed, I fired that weapon and I came out swinging. So, this is another concept that we talk about at Toyota Labs called go to the Gemba. Now, what does that mean? It go to where the work is being done. A lot of people sit in a corporate office and then tell people what to do. Well, they never actually went out and did the do. Okay. You need to do the do. If you don't understand what's going on, go out and look. It's just walk. It's called the Gemba walk. You walk out of your office and go look. You're going to communicate, you're going to cooperate, you're going to recognize and solve the problem. This is what this works like. You got a person that's doing a job, you need to communicate with them. Hey, look, I think maybe we could do something a little bit differently. And then you're going to work with that person to help them get to the point where it's going to work for everybody involved. Um, Here's what this really boils down to is at the end of the day, this is based on a human, okay? A human is going to run this process. Now, Toyota believes in automation with a human touch. So when we have a problem, we see it because it sticks out. And I called out problems lots of times that were very obvious to me. Kind of surprising nobody else ever saw the problems that I did. We're going to Kaizen those problems. We're going to look at them very carefully and we're going to think very hard about them. We're going to eliminate any waste. If there's any waste in the process, if people aren't working, we're going to eliminate that. And then once it's been improved, people are going to be happy with us. We'll teach other people how to do that thing. And then we're going to have flexibility, which leads to long-term survival. So, a survival culture. I can tell you that I've been in survival mode for most of my life. Now, if you're in survival mode for your whole life, there's going to be certain things that you're going to learn. You're going to learn to ask questions. And you're going to push people to a limit, competing at a level that your competition did not know existed. So a lot of people talk about lean, especially in manufacturing. We talk about lean all the time. Lean manufacturing can also be applied to any business. Being lean and not wasting money is one of the best ways to save your money. And here's another concept. It's a wild one, but any leader, if you call yourself a leader and you don't have any followers, you're just a guy on a walk. Every leader is a coach. A coaching atmosphere is important. Everybody is a coach and everybody coaches everybody. And then we're going to focus on eliminating waste along this process. Scientific thinking, I'm not going to talk about that. Kaizen, this means changing for the better. And so this is a really good drawing over here on the left-hand side with the and on to kind of explain to you if a worker on the line sees something wrong, they push a button. That button lights up an and on light, and the supervisor now knows that there's something better. To Kaizen is to change for the better. And this is part of Kaizen is as soon as there's a problem, you raise your hand and say problem, 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 problem. Now, how people respond to those problems, that's different matter altogether. Fast is smooth, smooth is fast. So in this process, we can actually go too fast. It's to the point where we can break stuff. We need to make sure that we manage that excess capacity and we're effectively utilizing the resource that we have. So I'll give you this example is it's possible, and we're talking about sewing machines because it's applicable here for Toyota. You could easily buy a faster sewing machine than the sewing machine that they currently use. Now, that faster machine is going to be more expensive. It's also going to lead that you're going to need more high performing people to run it. So instead of trying to run all the time, maybe jog. If you can consistently jog a little bit over time adds up while the guy that was sprinting is taking a break, you can continue moving forward. Also, inspect what you expect. So we're going to use yardsticks in our business to manage and measure what's going on. And high efficiency does not always mean lower cost. Sometimes you can try to be efficient and you can spend tons of money trying to be efficient when it was probably just better to just be inefficient for a period of time. And so there's this golden ratio about movability and how much you're moving around and things like that. And I think about this a lot with real estate is a lot of people do a lot of running around and not a lot of actual work. So we're going to talk about this supermarket, okay? It's a lot easier to use this analogy. So imagine that you were going to order sushi. Now, if you're going to order sushi, you might as well, if you're going to DoorDash it, for example, you might as well just order two orders of sushi because by the time you actually get the thing and you pay the DoorDash driver and you pay the tax and you pay the restaurant, you might as well just have two servings. Or if you're going to cook it yourself, you might as well just make two servings, even if you save one for yourself. It can be considered muda, it's wasteful to just prepare sushi for one person. Now, there's also this mura, which is the lack of uniformity. The more you do something, the more consistent you can become. And then there's Murray, which is unreasonable. Okay. It's don't be unreasonable. Okay. If you're dealing with a client or you have a situation that comes up in your business, be reasonable. Okay. So these concepts, right? Make it the same. Don't be unreasonable. And then to make your daily work worthy of you, put in the touch to the automated machine. So this is something I'm talking about. This I've been thinking about this a lot because everybody's talking about AI, AI, AI. AI is an assistant. It's not a replacement. You use AI to benefit your business, but don't use it to replace you in your business, right? So continue to use that gray matter up here. So moving does not equal work. We're going to eliminate waste for improvement and efficiency. Now, I love this slide. I've been wearing my cowboy get up here, and people are like, Travis, you're not a cowboy. Okay, well, hold my water because I am a cowboy. What does a cowboy really do? If you think about this, they just follow the herd as the herd moves along. Okay, they don't have to do anything 90% of the time until a cow goes on off the path. Okay, now you got to get that cow back on the path real quick because otherwise the other cows will start to follow that lost cow, right? And if everything's moving the way it is, the cowboy just rides along. Okay? He doesn't have a lot of work to do. It's abnormality control. So in your business, as soon as you start standardizing the work that you're doing, when something's outside of the standard, it's gonna stick out. Okay? Workplaces control. So this is the part where it kind of can become a little bit um, unclear. And if you have questions about this, I encourage you to reach back out because I'm more than happy to kind of tell you how this works. But um, this process that you're seeing here with the interwriter, right? The things that are going on, right? Um, it's very easy for things to change when they're not necessarily set in stone. And it's often going to be the case that in a workplace, there may or may not be a unequal distribution of work. And so if you don't have enough work, people need to know, hey, look, I need more work. The people that are actually running the system, they want there to be extra time available so that things can become flexible. Now, only telling the last person the plan. This is about maintaining flexibility. If a guy comes to work and he's like, I got to build 100 cars today, well, he's going to be stressed out because if his day's 80% over and he's only built 50 cars, that could be a problem. And so he only knows what he's doing at this exact moment because the plan may be modified. Something may happen along the process. And this is why you see the guy depicted with a pencil handwriting on here is because we want to be able to change the plan. We don't want to set it so solid and make it so concrete. So I got some more stuff to deep dive in. We'll come back and we'll revisit standardized work. I want to talk about that in depth, what it looks like, how to use it, improvement activities, how do you make things better, how do you practice Kaizen, having high quality with safety. We want to make sure that everybody goes home safe. At the end of the day, no matter what you do, if you don't go home, it doesn't matter. Production planning, kind of laying out your goals and having an idea of where that's going. And then we're going to dive deep more on the Toyota production system here. But that's it for today. I hope that that was potentially helpful for you. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I would love to talk to you about this. I've been toying around with the idea of how can I put this into play in my real estate business. So if you have any concepts around that, I'd love to hear from you. And like, follow, and subscribe. I do this for you. It's not for me. Despite what my wife thinks, I don't like to hear myself talk. So I love your feedback. Feedback is love, everybody. So that's it. I got nothing else for you today. This has been Travis, and we'll